This is the 2015 Motion Nitro City, and there are two Nitro bikes in the lineup this year. Both of them are capable of reaching higher top speeds and pedal assist, namely 28 miles per hour for most riders, which is pretty sweet. I mean, this is gonna get you to work faster if you're using it to commute, or just enjoy that thrill a little bit more. But it also still offers a twist throttle. So there's a lot of variety in this bike. It's my favorite one in the Nitro lineup because it comes with all these extra accessories like fenders on the front and rear, this nice rack, as well as that chain guard, just plastic. It's a 30-speed bike, which is pretty cool. So when you are traveling at those higher top speeds, your cadence isn't gonna have to be like super fast. You can just switch gears here. And the components are Shimano XT, which is pretty high quality stuff. When you do have two derailleurs like this, you do encounter more maintenance usually. The chain has to be a little bit longer so it can go through all of those different gear ranges. Those are some of the trade-offs, but frankly, it's not too bad. It's more of a bicycle. To shift gears on this bike, you've got a couple of trigger shifters right up here on the front, which is pretty standard. Again, what you'd be used to on a traditional bicycle. And we've got these nice Schwalbe Marathon tires, and they're 700 by 38C, which is a little bit fatter than like a true road bike tire, but that extra width gives you a little bit of extra support and comfort when you're riding along. They are anti-puncture, which is nice too, and they've got this reflective sidewall, which is great. Now, I mentioned fenders earlier, but one of the things that's great about these fenders, they're just plastic, but they've got two arms right here, so they stay relatively straight. They don't rattle around a whole lot. They've got the mud flaps, and they've got these quick, like, finger adjustable lengths, so you can sort of tighten them up if there is a problem and they do start to scrape. The rear rack is also super great. A little bit wide on the gauging here. It's not quite as narrow as other traditional racks, so depending on the racks that you've got, if you've got bags that sort of clip on, this might be a little fat, but I think they'd probably still work. And frankly, it's a great rack. It's got like pannier blockers, it's got the side reflector, it's got the built-in bungee cords. Can't really complain about that. And then of course, the license plate and the light. So there are several features on this bike: reflectors, front and rear lights, like that, this mirror, and this interesting kickstand where you don't even have to kick it, you just tip the bike a little bit and it kicks itself up. These are all required in Europe for speed pedalec electric bikes. Whoa. And so they've just kind of like worked their way into the American version as well, probably just for cost reasons. And that's because they treat this more like an automobile. And again, in Europe, you'd have to have a license and a little plate for this bike. In America, most states don't require that. But some states, some cities are starting to kind of like follow that rule as well. In America, the limits are 750 watts or less for the motor, and top speed of 20 miles per hour or less with the throttle. That they don't really say much about pedal assist, which is why we're getting these speed pedalecs like this. So anyway, yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview of the bike part of this electric bike. I should call out these nice tetrode urato hydraulic brakes, though. They're pretty sweet. 180 millimeter rotor on the front, 160 on the rear, so they don't quite match, but that's consistent across the Motion bikes. And they've got this big ball thing at the end. That's another one of those speed pedelec requirements from Europe. But the great thing about these levers is that you don't have to squeeze them very hard to activate the brakes, and when you really go hard, I mean, they're just great. They're very responsive. And they have motor cutoff inhibitors right here. So see, this is the hydraulic line, and then this little line, that's for electronics. So whenever you're pedaling, whether you've got the assist on or throttle or whatever, as soon as you pull this lever, it's like a fail-safe and it cuts power to the motor, which is pretty awesome. I would call out that it's got these nice bosses here on the rear seat stays, but they didn't even use them to put this rack on. You could potentially use those for something else. The one area that they kind of missed with these bikes, though, is that there isn't a water bottle cage adapter anywhere. So if you want to bring along a water bottle, you have to put it in a bag, wear a camelback, or maybe put something on the seat, or an aftermarket, seat tube adapter could possibly work as well. So, interesting to see the design choices they've made with this. And, it's not a super cheap electric bike. It's about $4,400. Whereas some of the other bikes, like the new the Evo, Cross, for example. It's very similar to this, but it's not 48 volts, it's not 500 watts, it can't go as fast. That bike's about $3,000. So for an extra $1,400, you're getting a higher top speed and some accessories. The other Nitro bike is called the Nitro Cross. That bike doesn't have the fenders, doesn't have the rack, doesn't have the chain guard, and it's the same price. So, you know, I think I'd go with this bike. It looks cooler, to be frank. It's got like this red and white. It's a little sportier looking, but they're basically the same bike. They both go a little bit faster, and they both got this basic Suntour suspension fork. It does have lockout, but it's, you know, it's only 63 millimeters of travel. It's meant to be kind of, you know, minimal, lightweight, not take up too much space. So yeah, that's kind of the bicycle aspects of the Nitro City. Let's talk a little bit about the drive system. What we've got back here is a 500 watt geared motor by Dapu. It is relatively small and kind of matches the frame. It really blends in being geared. And, you know, it is a 500 watt motor, and that's part of how you get those higher top speeds, but it doesn't feel super duper powerful, especially with the throttle. It feels best when you're using pedal assist. And the activator for that is like right over here. Do you see that metal plate? That's a TMM4 torque sensor, so it senses how hard you're pulling on the chain, and it kind of like bends the metal a little bit, and that's what activates the motor. It's pretty responsive, pretty smooth, relatively good system. The way the motor is mounted, if you take off these rubber caps, it's just with bolts on the back, so there isn't a quick release on the rear. There is on the front, and again, some of Easy Motion's newer bikes, the Evo bikes, they do have these little quick release levers on the rear, and you'll see the cable comes out. It you know, kind of extends a little bit here. A little bit more vulnerable. The new motor, it comes out a little bit lower, and it's actually on the disc brake side, so it's a little bit more tucked away, but otherwise it's a very similar motor design, and it's pretty good. It keeps things relatively lightweight, and this bike is about 54 pounds total. Again, the Nitro Cross without the fenders and stuff is about 50, so for 4 extra pounds you get the fenders and the rack and stuff. The battery pack on this has Samsung cells, as you can see here. It's a 48 volt, 8.7 amp hour design. We can put the key in here and pull it out. There we go. You can see it just, they built it right into the frame, and that keeps the weight low and center on this bike, which is great. So yeah, there it is, 48 volt, 8.7 amp hours, TD High-Tech Energy Inc. Must have made this battery. It's pretty cool. You know, it's really nice that they match the frame and everything. The downside with this system is that, again, you have to take the battery off to charge it. You can't charge it right on the bike. And for something this expensive and nice, you know, you might be keeping it inside, and then it's a pain to, you know, pull this off. And if you set it down, it could kind of get scratched and chipped. And so I'm really glad that with the new Evo lineup, you can charge the battery on the bike. So worth keeping in mind. Battery is on and locked. So to activate all the drive systems on this bike, we've got this nice little backlit LCD display panel, and it is removable. Look at that, kind of slides right off. You can put it in your pocket and kind of keep it safe if you're parked at a bike rack. To activate it, you just hold down on that center button. It's a power button, and the screen comes to life. Got speed over here, battery level, and it just finished measuring, so it's 3 out of 5 bars right now. And then your pedal assist level, or throttle mode, as well as some other indicators here like your odometer, your trip time, and your max trip speed. And you can cycle through those pressing the power button. On this bike, since it has lights, if you hold the minus button for a couple seconds, the display lights up. There's a little sun right there. And of course the lights come on. Check that out. This one's pretty adjustable. Get a nice beam of light. So that's the safety feature on both of these Nitro bikes that are pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the lights off. There's also a walk mode. If you hold plus up for a little bit, the bike will just start, it'll go as if you were walking along with it, you know, holding your hand like this and kind of walking it up a hill. So it does have throttle as well as pedal assist, but they don't work together. So if you arrow all the way down to no assist, well then the throttle works. You twist it and you go. As soon as you go up to eco, standard, sport, or boost, well, your throttle is deactivated, and that's when the TMM4 torque sensor kicks in. So that works all right. I mean, I wouldn't mind being able to override the motor with the throttle, but frankly, you know, the pedal assist on this thing works pretty well. And again, that's going to extend your range if you're helping the bike out. I tend to ride in one of these lower modes, you know, eco or standard, kind of extends the range of this thing. So let's hop on and I'll give you a quick demo of the electric drive systems on this thing. I'm going to start out with the throttle here just so you can hear the motor on its own. But as soon as you turn it on to assist mode, I'm going to go all the way up to boost. That's where you get your real power. A little bit of a lag on this system. I've noticed that with most of the Easy Motion bikes that I've tested, the motor kind of keeps on going even after you stop pedaling, which is sort of odd. It sort of feels like, why isn't it responding to me? But I kind of have a theory. I think they're doing that to reduce surge, and surge is what happens when you have a torque sensor and you're pushing and then you're kind of not pushing in between pedaling motions, and you get this kind of like inconsistent motor output. But again, you've got these nice cutoff levers here, so at any given time you just squeeze that. If you need to stop, just squeeze the brake lever, the motor cuts out. And it's not like a mid-drive where it's going to grind your gears or strain your chain at all. The motor is completely separate, so it's a good system. It works out pretty well. That is the Easy Motion Nitro City. For the full write-up on this, pictures and specs, and other Easy Motion electric bike reviews, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com.